Hey everybody, what is content-aware scale that we have as a feature in Photoshop? Now that feature's been around for many years, but I've got a couple of questions asking me, when would I ever use a feature like this? Are we ready for this? Let's do it! Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to the channel, this is dedicated to pushing yourself creatively as a photographer and as a photo artist. Plus we look at little tricks and tips and stuff like that in Photoshop and maybe editing our images. Okay, with this out of the way, let's talk about our topic for today. And that was from about 3 emails I got asking me, what is content-aware scale, and when would I ever use that feature in Photoshop? Now, we've had this feature for quite a while, and what I want to emphasize is this is a feature that you might occasionally use if you knew it existed. It's nothing that you're going to use a lot. It's sort of a niche situation. So let's take a look at this in Photoshop. And I set up 4 different images to help explain the concept of how this tool works. Number 1, we will work on this image toward the end. This is another one I'm going to work on a couple different ways. But before I do that, I'm going to dive into this image to show you the sort of the ABCs and how content-aware scale actually works. Now, number 1, we have to be on a normal layer. So over here, I can see that I'm on the normal layer. If I was on a background layer over here, I would have to convert that to, from background to normal. I'll show you how to do that a little bit later. Okay, so here's where you find the feature. If you go under Edit drop-down menu, it's about halfway down, called Content Aware Scale. When that activates, I'm going to hold the Shift key down. If I don't, here's what happens when I do this. And I don't want to do that, so I'm going to push this back. I'm going to hold the Shift key down and not let go. And I'm going to click and drag. And what this technology is doing is, okay, we believe those 3 objects there, it's a person, is your main subject area. So we're going to crunch in between those and leave the subject matter alone. So that way when I choose enter the keyboard, I just change the aspect ratio of that. So very simple, easy to use. But here's the challenge. I took those 3 images. Now it could be a different person, whatever, but what I did was I stuck it in a background that's not plain, obviously. It's a landscape background and stuff. So again, it's a single layer, and I'm going to go back to Edit, drop-down menu, come down to, again, halfway down, Content-Aware Scale. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hold the Shift key down, grab this node right here, click and drag, and notice what it's doing. It's deforming her there, and if I probably push it further, it's really going to, botch everything up. So this is not working. So I'm going to push that back. So if that ever happens to you, here's a feature that you can activate on the toolbar, and that is right here. This little, it looks like a person there, but it says Protect Skin Tones. So since I do have skin tones, I'm going to click down on that. But if I don't have skin tones, what do? Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm going to come back to the same spot, hold the Shift key down, click and drag, and you can see now that as I do this, it ignores the person because it knows they have skin tones, and it leaves that alone and takes care of just crunching in the background a bit. Now, again, this is over-exaggerating that, but again, I'm changing the aspect ratio. By the way, a little tip, if you didn't know this, if you ever change an aspect ratio like this and you got all these empty canvas there, it's easy to go up to Image drop-down menu and choose Trim. And when you choose that, a dialog box opens up, and just choose OK. This should be your default setting, and that will get rid of the remaining pixels on the side there, and there you go. Okay, so that's the logic, the way this works. So now I'm going to go to this image right here. And let's just start out with Edit drop-down menu. And what I want to do is change the aspect ratio of this, I should say first. And, if I wanted this to be more of a vertical image, so much easier just to crop this, correct? I mean, that would be the easiest thing. But, a lot of times things that you think, well, let's just do this. Clients think differently. And sometimes for the composition, in this example, I don't want to lose the trees there in the upper left-hand corner. I still want to maintain that as part of my composition when I frame that in. So if I come down to Edit, let's just try this generically. Edit, drop-down menu, Content-Aware Scale. Ooh, it's grayed out. Why is that grayed out? If that ever happens to you, it's because of this. It's a background layer, and you're not allowed to have a background layer if you're going to use that feature. So I'm going to click on the padlock here to unlock it. It now made it a normal layer. Now I can go to Edit, drop-down menu, come down to Content-Aware Scale, and now again I'm going to hold the Shift key down. But before I do that, let's turn off the feature here that's protecting skin tones, just so we have an idea how this works. Holding the Shift key down, click and drag. Perfect. I didn't like the kit anyhow, so there. Okay, so obviously this is not working, so let's push this back. Okay, now I'm going to choose Protect Skin Tones. And let's see what happens when I do that. So Shift, click and drag. Well, it's doing it, but it's just, it's morphing and changing the shape of his body. So in a way, this is not working 100% the way I'd like it to. So I'm going to push that back, and I'm going to turn that feature off. I don't need that to show you the next thing that you could do. And the thing that you could do is come over here in your toolbar and choose on the this one right here, on the flyout menu, Object Selection Tool, or you can choose Select Subject there, whichever is going to work the best for you. I'm just going to click and drag to say select that as my subject and let it do its thing. Okay, now it made a selection of my subject. In other words, I want to protect that. And so if I go to Select drop-down menu, and here's the key thing, Save Selection, I will name this selection, I'll just abbreviate this, Grad for Graduate. Click on OK. And I'm going to deselect my marching ants, and that's just Control D or Command D on a Mac. And if I go to a category called Channels, just to show you, you don't really need to, when you're doing this, you don't have to go to Channels, but just to help explain what happened, by me saving that selection, it created called an alpha channel here, and the name of it is Grad. Okay, so now if I do this, I'm going to go to the Edit drop-down menu, come down here to Content-Aware Scale, and now when I'm going to choose where it says Protect in the drop-down menu here, it says None, Grad. It's reading the alpha channels. And the first time there was no alpha channel, and I just saved an alpha channel called Grad. So now that I have that, click on this, it's going to protect that selection I just made. So if I hold the Shift key down and move this to the right, whoops, sorry about that again. Got to hold that Shift key down, click and drag. There you can see that it's keeping the tree there for me in the upper left-hand corner. But if you noticed that, well, most people wouldn't know, that it sort of scrunched this car down. Left the people alone, but it shrunk that car down a little bit. And if I didn't like that, but again, I think most people would not even know that, then I would approach this a little bit differently. So I'm going to click and drag across. Oops, again, keep forgetting to hold that Shift key down. So Shift key, click and drag across. Okay, let's just do Enter on the keyboard. Now, my approach is somewhat similar. If I want to protect two areas, I need to multi-select those areas and then save it as an alpha channel. So again, if I said, okay, let's grab this, or let's do this. I'll grab the select subject from the contextual menu just to see if it works. If it didn't, I'd have to do the other way. Yep, it picked that up for me. Now, if you know basic selection, the rule is if I grab a different tool, which will be the lasso tool here, and I hold the Shift key down, I'm adding to my selection. So I'm going to carefully go just above the car there. I'm going to leave the people alone. Maybe come down here and right there. So there is my selection. So I have two selections. So remember, holding the Shift key down allows me to multi-select different areas. Then I will go back to Select drop-down menu, choose Save Selection. I'll call this, I'll just call this Grad 2 and click on OK to accept that. So now I have a different alpha channel, and I'm going to deselect my active selection. And so now when I grab Edit, Content Aware Scale, and I come over here to the drop down, I want to protect Grad-2, which is those two selected areas. So if I hold the Shift key down again and click and drag, as I do this, you'll notice that that car there is really not scrunching down like it did before. And then I can just choose Enter on my keyboard. And then to get rid of the excess on the left side, I would do the same thing as I did before. Image drop-down menu, choose Trim, just click on OK, and there we go. Okay, so again, a very niche market. This is something you're not going to always do, but it's knowing how the tool works. So in case something does come up later, you can actually do this. This is, I tell you, this works. Landscape people use this a lot, by the way. And I've seen this being used with wildlife photography and other types. And here we go with, you know, a simple picture like this with a grad. Okay, so let's go to this. All right, so let's take a look at this image. Now again, before I can do anything with this, I notice that this is a background layer, so I need to change that by clicking on the lock there to unlock that. So now it's a normal layer. Now I'm not going to select anything here. What I'm going to do is just try the technology by itself. So Edit drop-down menu again, Content Aware Scale, and I want to change the, I'm going to go from top to bottom now instead of left to right. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to hold the Shift key down, click and drag to push this down, and notice as I do this, and I'm going to choose Enter on the keyboard, it actually compressed the tree down a little bit and also the foreground, but it did not affect the car. So my question to you, by the way, I'm just going to go to, again, Image, Trim, click on OK to get rid of the, you know, the rest of that. And this is more of a square aspect ratio. But the point is, if that car squished down, I would just undo everything and I would select the car and say Save As, you know, the selection as a car, and that creates that alpha channel. And then I would choose that Protect feature and it's choose Protect Car. And that way I can adjust the aspect ratio based on what I want. But it's interesting that I'm not selecting anything at all. It just knows what to do automatically, and that's not going to happen to you all the time. Okay, in this example, it does. So again, that is, I need to remind you, a niche market when it comes to using this feature, Content Aware Scale. It's important to know about it in case you ever have to do something like this. It could be your savior right there in changing an aspect ratio of an image. Okay, so again, hopefully you learned something. Again, like the video, subscribe if you have not, hit that notification bell. Email me at StephenPhotoArtist@gmail.com. That should be right here at the bottom of the screen. It's also in my show notes. Also, once again, I want to thank people that have been supporting the channel by going to buymeacoffee.com/StephenPhotoArtist and making a donation, which is a volunteer type basis. There's no monthly commitment. So again, thanks again for those who are supporting the channel. All right, so with that out of the way, try these techniques. Find an image, a landscape image, whatever, and make the adjustments and try all the different methods. See what it does by itself, then see if it protects skins if there's a person in it or a portrait, and then try the selection technique or multi-selection technique and see what that actually will do for your image when you try to transform that. Okay, so with that out of the way, again, literally think out of the box. Until next time, see ya.